And we need to give God's forgiveness out to the other people around us. I mean, that's what God came to do. I mean, that's the good news. Is it our debt that you and I could never pay off in a million, billion, trillion years? God said, I'll pay it. Was it expensive? Yeah, but it was free. Okay, so then the question becomes, who do I forgive? Well, here's 3 kind of tests to kind of walk through in your mind on who you need to forgive. The blame test. Are you blaming anybody for your unhappiness? I mean, who do you blame? This is an indication of resentment. Blame is an indication of bitterness, and you've got to let it go. The second test is the bitterness test. This is where you're asking the question of yourself, am I keeping score? I mean, does every time that person in your life does something, you think to yourself, yep, they owe me one. They need to be nice to me because they owe me one. I mean, some of you in your marriages, a spouse has actually made a major mistake in the relationship. And so every time that spouse tries to do something nice and is good in the marriage, you never really accept it because you're still holding this grudge. And you constantly think, well, they should do that because they owe me. And so what's happening is you're holding this major grudge and you're unpleasable, and no good that they do makes you happy. And so guess who's killing the marriage? You're killing the marriage. You're killing the marriage because you're not forgiving, because of your unforgiveness. I mean, truly forgiving them really means not bringing it up again. It really means forgiving in your heart. It really means letting it go. The third test is the behavior test. I mean, do you ever find yourself reacting to someone because they remind you of someone that you have resentment towards? This is a pretty big indication that you need to learn to forgive. See, here's kind of a scenario that works itself out is, as a child, you start to build up resentment towards a parent for something they've done to you. And you never express that resentment, so it just builds. And then as an adult, your spouse does something that reminds you of that parent. And so you blow up at them. Not because they've actually done anything wrong, but because they remind you of someone that you never got to express that resentment towards. You got 2 options here. You can either rehearse it or you can release it. So you can rehearse it and just go over it over and over and over in your mind. I mean, figure out ways to retaliate and ways that you were not in the wrong and they were in the wrong, and how you're so right and how you're gonna get even. Or you release it and you experience God's forgiveness, God's joy. And then once you experience God's forgiveness, you're able to give that forgiveness to other people. Some of you need to probably sit down and make a list of people you need to forgive. And you need to just let it go. I mean, never bring it up again. Bring it before God, hand it over, and emotionally let it go. I mean, even when I was thinking about this, I thought, oh, I've forgiven people, I understand this. When I sat down and I started to ask God, God, reveal to me people in my life that I've got resentment or I've got guilt, that I need to give this up. It needs to come from my heart. And I just started to journal, and I was surprised at how many names actually came up. And I prayed, and I asked God to forgive me. And I prayed for these people. In fact, one of them, the one that was on my very top of my list, I called him up, I took him out to lunch, and we had an amazing time. Is that resentment wasn't there anymore. It was gone. But it only happened when I understood how much God forgave me and wanted me to forgive others. That prayer hits me so hard. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. We're literally praying, God, forgive us as much as we're willing to forgive other people. Don't live in the unforgiven.